Okay, so I think it's good. So hi, welcome. This is part 5 of learning Solar2D. And in the past, part 1 to part 4, we have go through the getting start guide of Solar2D and also look at a few topics in the basic sections of the tutorial. So in this stream, we are going to continue that, and the objective is finish all of the basics and then see if we need to look at the others before I start working on the game that I'm going to write. So without further ado, let's get started. All right, so welcome. So let's get straight into it. So in the past video, we have looked at the scope for beginners and goodbye globals. It's pretty basic, and then we also look at this understanding colon and dot. It's still a little bit weird to me in terms of the Lua language, which maybe I'll go into the Lua's documentation a little bit to understand a little bit better. But for now, let's continue the remaining part of the basics section. So yeah, so let's see. This looks okay. So let's go. So the value of well-formatted code, of course, that's what I would like to focus on. So inevitably, there will be a time in your app development where you need to show your code to someone else. Perhaps it's because blah 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 is okay. Well-formatted code is good. Okay, do you use free or forced space? Free space? It's the first time I heard about free spaces. Do you indent with tab of space and so on? Beginning F line. Oh well, okay. Regarding that, yeah, we have already added the formatter in VS Code, and very likely we just stick with that. But let's read on. So consider this block of code while it works. So we have set some. Okay, there's a function declaration over here. Where's the function itself? Do it here. It calls it, but what does it define the body? Interesting. It's an indent. I see the indentation. I see, of course. Let's figure that out. Show score. It's not mentioned here. Okay, just this is a complete show score function, so organize it. So putting this in there, that's fine. Okay, basically creating a function to name what you are trying to do. Right, that's as expected. It's a good thing to do. Using functions as a way to organize your code instead of using comments. Comment is not sufficient most of the time. You should only use comment to add in context information which cannot be expressed or way too tedious to express in function names, right? So that's good suggestion. Then indentation. So many developers don't know what don't know. Okay. Yeah, we probably know what that means. So indent you for function if while for repeat. Okay, repeat is probably the do. My guess is That's all. So of course those should be indent. They require that an end statement. Okay. Oh, by the way, let me make this a little bit bigger so it's easier for you guys to read. Can I move this? No, I cannot. For indentation purpose, 3 to 4 space or tab. If you prefer space, have enough space so it's obvious the indent inside the code block. Okay, so that's fine. In other language, I tend to use 4 space, but so over here, we'll continue. Well, I'm in other language, I tend to use 2 spaces, but over here, the formatter do that for me as with 4 space, and I can't figure out how to change that to 2 space, so that's fine. We'll keep that. So multi-level indentation, of course. Variable name. Allow us far more variables, of course. Make it shorten. Make your name correctly. So generally, the broader the scope, the more descriptive the variable name should be. Yes. If you follow what Uncle Bob is talking about, right? Variables should or function when it is global, it could have a longer scope, while for function it should be shorter and class is shorter. So I'm not going to repeat that over here, but it's basically aligns with that. So shorter name like move or player are fine for narrow scope variable, but for broader scope, the longer name should be and frequently should contain multiple words like play, uniform, color. Okay. Well, when we work on it, we'll definitely see more. Block length or nested length is easy to write code that can contain a lot of nested blocks. However, the longer the block gets, the harder it becomes to read and maintain, of course. The purpose of function is to write manageable blocks of code, correct? Will be executed over and over. The key is manageable. So if you have series function, if and for, and other blocks nest inside each other along with end statements over here, even proper indentation may not be enough. Okay, just yes, of course. Module length, just like avoiding long functions, avoiding long module, right? Break it up apart, 100, 200 lines long, optimally or less. And then white space. While some white space improve readability, excessive white space can be problematic and pointless. On the other hand, avoiding white space can make your code appear cluttered and jumbled. Generally, you should use one line break between blocks. Okay, what they say is doing this code block. Well, this is a kind of a personal preference. Especially the leading one, right? This I agree, right? This separating the block and separating them to separate logical steps, right? That group them together, and that's also a reason why I typically suggest not to separate function declaration and function assignment. Because of the same reason, right? So for this, the leading one is kind of subjective to me. I personally wouldn't do that. I would put no empty lines over there. Use a proper editor. Okay. Yes. So this usually manage your indentation automatically as you move down further to the code block. Yes, with the formatter. In addition, they often provide full Lua syntax coloring. Yes, of course. For example, editor label string in green, and you forget to include a ending quote. Oh, well, okay. Other important feature of a proper editor to show line numbers. Well, yes, of course. That's fine. Conclusion. Oh, all right. Not much things to learn from here personally. So let's go to the next one, pass data to and from function, pass by reference and pass by value thing. But let's see. When people first start programming, they quickly learn that writing all of their code in one large web. Yes. And well, don't repeat yourself. Again, don't repeat yourself. I always teach that is not the goal. Is the result of proper refactoring and proper managing your code. Right after you're able to do that, separate the concern properly, break it down to smaller functions, it automatically achieve DRI. Right? Don't just try to refactor for the sake of DRI. Because you see some code deprecation, you might want to refactor it so that eliminate the deprecation, but that is doing the refactoring for the wrong purpose, right? Okay. Is my sound? Hello? It's for a second. How about this? Hello? It's about the same. I don't know what's going on. Is I heard some echo. Let's continue. If you find yourself writing code the same basic block of code multiple times and the only minor difference, yeah, extracting the functions, yes, but again, don't do it just for the don't repeat yourself purpose. So simulate task functions, consider this. Yeah, that's okay. We can really skip this. Sending data in. Data is sent to function as param or arguments. Okay. So they are passed through as completely separate list of value variables within the function parameters. So that's okay. Space between isn't required, but that's okay. Yes. Pass string but is passed within code while variable without code. Okay. Other item can be passed as well as including table and data, just variable, right? Nothing special here. They are identical in behavior. Yeah, these two, of course, they are identical in behavior. Another thing that sending a table, right? And then assigning and sending tables. Oh, okay. So for the index, the kind of record or table, you index it like that. It is straightforward using the square bracket. How you choose to pass data is entirely up to you and may simply depends on amount of flexibilities you need. As illustrated so far, function can accept any parameters of one data type or a mix of data types. As a developer, it's your responsibility to ensure that the value passed to your function are what you expect them to be. Don't be careless and pass a string when you intend to be a number or vice versa. So this one, recall in the first or second video, we saw that there are some implicit conversion involved, and the example there is the tab count. The function that we're calling, I think it was display.show text, is expecting a string, but we are passing in a number and it do an implicit conversion over there. So as I mentioned over there, yes, in general, it's not a good practice, but the language supports it, obviously. But so in general, still we need to be careful about that kind of things, right? So parameter names. Parameter names should be whatever it makes sense to do, not required to be anything in particular. If you don't use logical and complete names, someone inspecting a code, of course, you need to name it well. You need to name your params well. And this event touch and so on. This function requires just a single param event, which is a Lua table that represents the event of user touching the screen. Assuming this function is used as a listener via a command like this, note some programmer may write the same function as E. This function are identical in behavior except that the parameter name event has been shortened to E. While E is in a descriptor, it demonstrates that the name itself doesn't matter. However, it's good practice to name parameters sensibly. Don't you forget the purpose sometimes in the future. So E, well, depends on the paradigm or what the domain that you work on. A lot of time it means some kind of event, and in other case it could be error, right? So it really depends on how what your context is. I would personally put event in there, but E is not too bad either. Getting the data out, return value, that's pretty straightforward. Any special things over here? So values plural. Okay, so you are allowed to do it as a list like this. So this is kind of like Go, right? The Go you can pass return multiple value at the same time. So seems well Lua able to do the same thing. So one interesting thing then over here is, well, I don't know about error handling or exception handling at the moment, but this capability means that potentially we can do something similar as in Go, right? The Go, the idiomatic way to write Go code is the last param is a error object, right? So that might be useful down the line. So notice that because the second function return two value, it logically needs two variables to store and return the value. This multiple return concept can be directly observed via the Corona, well, meaning Solar2D API, get linear velocity. A physics function which retrieves the current linear velocity of a physical object, because a physical linear velocity always consists of two velocity values x and y. So this will return x and y. Okay, makes sense. Note, however, that you don't need to store all. You can just get x. Okay, of course, makes sense. Variable names of parameters. So spread, my guess is rest and spread. So sometimes a function may need to accept a variable number of params. Okay, so then it use a number of arguments and use the argument. So this is kind of half and half between JavaScript arguments object. Right, in JavaScript, arguments object is a pseudo array which contain the array arguments, and then you don't even need to specify anything in the param. And on the other hand, if you're using the REST syntax, then you will specify the name of the argument and then use it, but this is in between. So okay, so that's something specific to Lua. So this getting a name, this is straightforward, from 1 to number of arguments, and then get the arguments. Here, notice how use the consecutive period, so 3 dot to indicate the very number, and then use argument. Yeah, well, that's what we observed. So again, pretty straightforward for people who already is a programmer. So now anonymous function and closure. Okay, so closure is definitely is a good thing to take a look into. So anonymous function, so like this, right? To begin, let's inspect how a typical function looks. So create a local function for my function. So then under the hood, this create a variable called my function. Basically, it also permits you to define a function like that. Okay, in this notation, it's more clear that you are assigning a variable to a code block, or more specifically, the memory address of that code block. In the end, both notation accomplish the same thing, but the second notation allows some additional flexibility. When written in this form, you are effectively taking a name block of code and giving it a name. But additional flexibility, what is the flexibility. It didn't mention over here. And so essentially, well, if you know JavaScript, this is the same as function declarations versus function expression, right? So enormous function, Lua permits you to write a function without a name. It's called enormous function, and then that's fine. In this case, timer perform with delay and take the function name and so on. So you can put an enormous function in there, that's fine. For the second example, okay, so you can do this with a semicolon, while making sure that this statement ends, right? So Lua script is the same as JavaScript. The semicolon is optional, and but in this case, since it end follow with this end, so you need to have a comma to separate it. In JavaScript, well, we don't have the end. We could have either a single one without the semicolon, or have a curly bracket and or the parenthesis to achieve the same result. So it's just a syntax that need to be aware of, not too complicated. So, and also let's see, let's say copy that over, right? So if I remove this and I format, yeah, it doesn't format it automatically for me. So need to put that in, if not it will crash. All right. So when to use them? Enormous functions are most useful when you need to code on complete or callback listener function. So it's very typical usage. Transition to or audio play. Oh, audio play can take a function, take a callback. Okay, how often should you use them? From the perspective of code readability and sustainability, perhaps not very often. But if the function will only be used in that specific scope of your code and is relatively short, enormous functions are perfectly valid coding technique. Okay. Note that there are times when you cannot use. Okay, when you cannot use. One specific instance is when you assign functions to event handlers. Assign functions to event handlers. Oh, the thing that the last video is talk about. So let's pay attention over here. Because the event handler system in Solar2D is based around storing the address of functions that are specified to handle events, the address you pass in when removing an event listener must match the address. Okay, well, nah, that's still trivial, because unless the add event listener return the function handle to you, which I doubt it does, of course you need to get a handle of it locally so that you can use it to call remove event handler listener, right? All right, so the next part is closure. So this probably will be more exciting. Let's go. So Lua closures are another useful technique. They are where they truly shine is in passing parameters to functions handled that are not looking for extra params. Okay, so my function and transition to player object. Oh, this is on complete my function. Okay, in this example, my function will be passed a single param. My function target. What? Where's target? In this example, my function will be passed a single parameters target, which is the object that is transitioning. But it seems like there's some problem with this documentation over here. But let's assume that the display object is a member of an array, and you need to know more about the object itself in the function that get called. This can be accomplished via Lua closure. So let's see. So as an anonymous function, so this pass in the target. Okay. So this pass in the target, and then also additional, I want to get additional information from here, right? So yeah, so this looks like, yeah, the common closure that you might have known in JavaScript, right? That this anonymous function is closed and allow you to access the scope, the variable in the declaration scope, right, in the lexical scope essentially. So pretty straightforward. Although, yeah, one interesting thing is sometimes when calling declaring the function like this might have the error of access to modified closure. Maybe it doesn't happen over here, I don't know, which means in that case what it means is the I it received here will be the last value after the whole loop completes, instead of capturing the I at that moment when it's being called. Because this, again, the reason of that is because this anonymous function is declared there, and the I value will, yeah, I think in JavaScript it will be a modified closure issue. So because when that function is called, it can be any time, and it can likely be after this for loop is executed, because this is essentially a delay callback, right? It's an animation, and this will only be called when it is complete. And when it is complete, this for loop is long gone, right? So with this example, let's see if it's talk about modified closure over here. It might talk about it. So before I say that the modified closure problem, let's continue. So in this example, instead of calling my function as part of callback, you can call an anonymous function instead, and we'll take the receive param and the target param, and passing it along with the color property of the ball. Closure are more than just anonymous function. When you have a function inside of a function, well, basically scope, a function within another scope, the child function has access to all of its parent local object or up values, right? Normally, when a function ends, any locally scoped variable go out of scope. So when you call the function again, you begin anew. So consider this example. Well, of course, yeah, this is nothing. So right, this will go through get the 10 and then return 10. Right. Now let's modify the function to actually return a function that does the counting. Okay, so this create that. Well, this is just a typical closure. And when we run it multiple times, Lua realizes that the anonymous function may still get used, and that it should hold on to the current value of I in its current scope. Yes, this is what a Lua closure can do for you. To expand on this concept, if you were to create another counter, the following result will occur. So you call 1 and 2. The third one is called 3. This start over with 1 and 2. Because this create a new, well, new closure, right? Okay, it doesn't mention the thing that I was concerning. Yeah, so seems like it will actually do some resolution. Yeah, it will do some resolution when this is declared so that it will avoid the modified closure problem. Seems like it because it didn't talk about that. Right, so but well, I definitely would like to try it out when we actually get to the code. Okay, so that's closure. So it's about pretty close to what JavaScript is. And so the only thing is that modified closure is maybe interesting. All right, so then use external modules. There's often confusion as to what exactly happens when external modules. Well, actually, since it's half an hour, let's take a quick break and then we will come back right after the break. So will be about a 5-minute break or so. All right, see you in a bit. All right, let's back here. So do this. So let's continue using external modules. There's often confusion as to what exactly happens when external modules are required in the job. Oh, there's some confusion, which lead to further confusion and unexpected behavior when it comes to things such as composer scenes or even custom module of your own. Okay, including external modules. In simplest form, an external module is simply the Lua file that returns something, most likely a table. Okay, it can almost be thought of as a function definition, but it contains in a file all to itself. Okay, yes, pretty simple. So now is in a different module you require it. You require example 1. Right, and then you can change the table, the object. As expected, upon execution of the first command, the variable ex1 become equal to the empty table m, and then this appear on the console. Yes, because it's executed, and then assign a property. So please close attention how this gets more tricky. Let's require example 1 in another scene 1. I guess it will be a different object or same. I see that's where the confusion comes in. After we have already acquired it within main Lua. This time, scene 1 Lua. In scene 1 Lua, when you require the example 1 Lua, the example 1 has been loaded do not appear on the console. Okay. Well, however, when you print the value, of example test var, which you code set in the main, hello world is output, which means the test. Yes, of course, because it's the same object, right? So package load tables. So essentially this, if we say confusion, that's how it works. That's how the same thing as how JavaScript work. The reason why example 1 Lua it does not appear because it's already loaded. Yes, when a module load is executed from top to bottom as usual, and the return value is stored in a global table called package loaded. So it's actually in the _g.package loaded. From that point on, the module is considered loaded and can't simply be reload refreshed by requiring again, of course. Okay. All right. Nothing. Well, let's actually read through this. It should be no surprises. But as we're learning it, we want to make sure this little tiny detail are straightened out and no surprises in the future. So when you call require, the first thing that happens is the package load table is checked to see if it's already loaded. Yes, if not, it will load it. If it is fine, then if it is found, then instead of requiring the external module, it just return, right? Return value is a reference, not a copy. Makes sense. But if your module returns a table, it's the same table you get. Makes sense. If it's not found, then it will run the code and then retrieve and put it over there. This explains why it's not shown again. Yes, okay, nothing special over here. Executing module code. There are 2 ways to get code within a module to run. Put the code inside a function and call it. Remove the module. Oh, well, generally not recommend. I'm glad it put it there. Right. Okay. Yeah, general not recommend. Here's example for the first. So it put a function over here and then make the call, right? And then make the call. As you can see, we require example 2 in 2 different modules, main and scene 1. The first print statement, the one outside of any function, well, this will be in print only once. The print will call twice. Yes. Essentially, if you want to run code with a module more than once, or you want to, yeah, or if you don't want to run it immediately, you should wrap it in a function, of course. Okay. Properly attaching module functions to the return table is essential to gain access to them. You cannot simply include the function with the module as a local function and then expect access to it from another module. This function will not be accessible. Well, yes, of course. All right. As outlined above, you require a module, and with the following syntax, with this is return. The return is stored in the package.load. First, if you want to unrequire, you can create to null, and then it will create and call again. I don't know in what case, maybe for some memory management concern. That's the only case that I can think of that may make sense to do something like that. Okay, implementing ads. Corona support multiple plugins that allow you to show in-app advertising. These plugins all basically work the same way. However, there are subtle differences that you have to pay close attention to. So the basic concepts, there are some common concepts for all ad providers. Let's start with dashboard setup. Each ad provider has a dashboard that you have to create an account for, set up your apps, and then get various identifiers for. And they are all different. Between the vast differences in the dashboard and the frequency that the ad provider updates their dashboard, is impossible for this to update the documentation. None of them has Corona specific information. So following the guide's documentation will help you get set up on the platform. That's okay. You will need to create an app for each Corona app you're going to implement ad for. Yes, for each application, of course. In almost every case, within their dashboard, you will define separate apps for the iOS and Android. Okay, the ad provider will target iOS specific ads to iOS app and so on. So it makes sense if you are building for both platforms, you have two makes sense if you are building for both platforms, you will have two applications, even though you will only have one physical Corona app, right? You build to two different platforms. That's fine. Makes sense. Each vendors may use a different identifier for this, but for the purpose of this tutorial, we will refer this as an app ID. Okay, it will be a string. The string could be all number, hex, long string, whatever. Okay. So next, you'll most likely have to define what types of ad you want to show. It's just banner, interstitial. This part is all new to me, so I don't know what that term means. Or rewarded video ad. So maybe a slide in, ads, and then rewarded probably a longer ad or something like that. Depends on your app design. There may be times where you need to have multiple ads of the same type that are tracked separately. For instance, you might offer 2 rewards in your game for watching a rewarded video. Each reward have a different amount, like 10 coins for one reward videos and 5 gems for another. Okay, so setting up differently. You need to set up different values that your app needs to process. Because of this, each separately tracked ad placement will have its own identifier. This may be called a placement ID, okay, or an ad unit ID or some other term. For this tutorial, we will refer them as placement ID, okay. They look like string and anything. The code in this tutorial use add unit ID since it use add mob as the implementation example. Okay, these placements go with the app. If you have both an iOS app and an Android app, and each app has 3 placement, you will have 2 app ID and 6 placement ID. Okay, makes sense. 2 times 3. In your Solar2D code, you will need to test to see what platform you are on and initialize your plugin using the appropriate ID. So do it in the main. Every plugin must be included in your build settings. Okay, here, build settings. So you should be able to copy and paste the code from the plugin documentation page and put it in your build settings file. For instance, to include add mob, you would add this block to your build settings. So there is a plugin. So here there's orientation, there's Android, and there's iPhone. and then here is the plugin. So the plugin is a still a table, and the ID of the table is plugin.addMob, and then the publisher ID is your or my ID for that. If you also want to include chart boost, you would do this. Okay, of course this is only part of your build settings files, and you would add this plugin block in with the other subtable. Yes, of course, require the plugin. So since this mention is a plugin, then you can require it like this. This will make plugin available to that module. Keep in mind, with Lua, plugin modules are only physically required and load once. When required in other modules, you are just setting up a link to the already required module. Yeah, that's fine. And in fact, well, it depends on the use case. Most likely, you know, in terms of architecture, we probably want to invert the dependencies or create an abstract interface. Make sure that they are the same, because you don't want to deal with two different kind of app and two different kind of ads or component. They should have the same interface if possible, right? That will make your code less cluttered, right? Just basic architecture or design concerns or design consideration. Okay, so initializing the plugin. Before you can initialize the plugin, you have to understand a few basic concepts. First, initialization doesn't happen right away because initialization takes networking calls. It takes time to complete. You don't want your app to freeze while this process happens. So the initialization actually happens in the background. Okay, makes sense. And this means you cannot make other plugin API call until initialization is complete. So well, in JavaScript, that would be behind the promise. But we'll see how to do it in Lua. So every plugin supports a listener or callback function that execute whenever an add event occurs. These events could be things like letting you know the plugin has completed initialization when an add was successfully loaded, or if a method reward video view was completed. Each plugin will have different names for these phases, and yes, some interface segregation, well, refactoring essentially is needed. Create a adapter, create an adapter for all the plugins doing the same thing. Right, you will only have one function to handle. You will only have one function to handle all this event. A basic listener function looks like this. So add handler using addMob. So it get this event, it's just printing out the event. There's a init, there's a load and reward, and then it could have different things. Okay. So calling init, once you have your core listener function written, you can call the plugin's init method. This method will usually require you pass the address of your listener function, right? That function, app ID, and additional parameter. How about the placement ID? An additional parameter like test mode. Okay, GPDL consent. I don't know what GDPR is, so need to figure that out. And other option, because app provider likely requires different app ID for different platforms, your code should probably do something like my app ID, my institutional app unit ID, banner app ID, reward ID, and if iOS, then it replace it. Okay. My app ID, well, you should always enable test mode while testing your app. Will cancel your account if you test against live ads. Yeah, okay, makes sense. Some flags should be there, but that's later on. At this point, a request to initialize the plugin will complete with proper app IDs. will complete with proper app IDs. Your add listener function will get called when the plugin finish initializing. Until you get this event, you cannot make any additional call the init, right? You talk about the init. Yes. Notice the code also set up variables to hold your placement ID at say add unit ID. We talk about this, right? So okay. Next. Large format ads such as interstitial ads or video-based ads need to be preloaded before you can show them. Okay, this is because it takes time to download the ads from the provider's server. Part of your responsibility as an app developer is using advertising is to use the advertising wisely. Ad best practice beyond the scope of this tutorial. But it is important that preloading ads or caching ads be discussed at this point. If you will, that blog post, it talk about one of the problem with preloading or caching ads. So that's definitely something to check out. But we will refer to this when we actually writing that part. Right, it will be quite a while away. If you always preload an ad, but you don't give your user a chance to view it until the user has completed, for example, 5 levels of your game, many users may not get to level 5 for some time. In situations like this, preloading an ad when your ad start is wasteful of your advertiser's ad. If you plan to have a user interface button that let user view a rewarded video, for instance, you can preload a video. Hold on a second. If you plan to have a UI button that lets the user view a rewarded video, for instance, you can preload the video when your apps start. It's probably mean that scene when that button is shown. That's what I guess what he meant. Not necessarily app start, because that would contradict the previous part. Anyway, so the code below use an example of preloading on app start. Okay, since you cannot load an ad before the plugin is initialized, you need to wait for it. You can use the init event as a signal that you can load your ad. Look at the modify ad listener function. So this is the listener. Receive the event. When it is event init, then we start loading. So put in this ad content has user consent. So that's something that has user consent. Don't know what that means. So there are 3 kinds of video, right? So if it fail, if the event type banner fail banner. Also, this is probably failing the banner ads. So most common failure reason is lack of ads to show. So simply try to load another ad. Oh, that's not enough ads to show, and then need to retry. Interesting. You don't want to do this over and over. Eventually, you give a try after a longer period of time. Makes sense? Add fail overcode doesn't talk about what it does. And then displayed. So the ad, so the ad fail and ad display. So when it's display, and then this will load again. What does it mean here? Why already load here, and then when it displayed is try to load again? What does it mean? Okay, let's see. Right, because over here like this, it is saying the reward was completed, displayed. Okay, let's look at the description. This only load one ad of each type once. Some plugins may automatically preload the first ad. After this ad is shown, you must load the next ad after this run. So it's shown is meaning this one. Okay, so this is actually loading the next one. Quite procedural style programming. That's why I have to. It's not clear to me. Okay. This will, if your plugins are, okay, let's see, you must load the next ad before you show it. Just prepare for the next one. And again, this is an example of loading the ads at the application starts. So if we're not doing that, some of this probably will need to change. But still just programming. All right. So if your plugin supports it, you can look for an event phase that indicates the ad was successfully shown. This will vary between plugin providers. For ad morph, it will be display to let you can load the next ads. Not exactly, it just say it display. You can choose when you to load the ads. See how the ad listener function is doing quite a bit of work for you. Okay, you will notice that there isn't an attempt to load banner ads after they have been displayed. Okay, yes, it's missing there. Most ad provider will rotate ad banners based on a schedule and therefore will load the next ad to be shown for you. Some ad provider will hide a showing banner ads if you try to load a new one while the current one is showing. Well, since it is a plugin, it's up to how that plugin is implemented. So some detail testing and things need to be carried out over here. If an ad type fails to load, you will get an event phase of failed. You can use this opportunity to attempt to load an ad from another plugin. Interesting, to set up your own ad waterfall. You could also use a timer to wait a few seconds and see if your primary ad provider has a new ad available. Setting a waterfall system or a time ad reload system is beyond the scope. Okay, showing ads from a code perspective is very easy, but sometimes that requires considerably more thought from an app design perspective. The hard question is, when should you show ads? Yeah, of course, because one way, well, when you write an app, you think about you need to inevitably think about monetization, and that is one of them. But at the same time, you don't want to overdo it and piss off your users, right? So as with anything, is balance. Many developers feel that showing banner ads during gameplay makes sense, rotating them periodically to generate more ad views. But it breaks submersion, right? The gaming experience. So it depends on the game type. This can be bad, wasteful use of advertising. Abuse of showing banners at the time when your user will not engage, right? Yes. Yeah. If your game is one where the user is focused on playing and looking at and interacting with the ad, will cause them to fail at the game. Okay. Or perform poorly, they will not interact with the app. Yeah. Okay, we can skip that. That's just some design aspect. Assuming you're using Composer for scene management, we can use something else for scene management. In your scene where you want the banner ads to show, simply add this to the did phase in the show. So when it show, get an ad timer, show attempt, show ad, and then delay 100 milliseconds, well, 0.1 seconds, and then show the ad. So if there's an ad timer, then cancel it. If not, you set it up. Add attempt -1, that's okay. And then if it is done, you killed it. If not, it's loaded. Then you wait for 0.5 seconds and try again. If not, you will show it to the bottom. Okay. And then when we will hide you will also hide the ads. Okay, so if you're using your own scene control, you can use similar code in. If you're using your own scene control, okay, interesting. So it is possible to use your own scene control, but for our purpose, when we just get started, we just try to use whatever available and then go from there, right? So let's break down the code a little bit. In typical case, you want to show a banner on your menu. Normally, you want to get the menu on screen as quickly as possible. Since plugin initialization takes time and executes in the background, it's very likely you will get your menu on screen before the plugin finish initialization. Yes. This could use the completion of initialization to load the first set of ads, which also takes time. It doesn't talk about it, but you use this check, right? So you might not able to show ad immediate upon showing your menu. It's more practical to test to see if the ad is ready to be shown, and then call the show this one. And API when the ad is ready. Yeah, this is supposed to be a hyperlink. Because of low fill rate or other reason, you may not get an ad to show. You don't want to continuously check to see if the ad is ready. The above code will have a brief timer, 10.1 seconds. Here, is that right? Well, this is just delaying the initial one and then calling that. You don't want to contribute. The above code will use a brief timer to call a function that will attempt to show it gives the plugin time to initialize. However, we only check a limited number of times before giving up. Actually, this description is a little bit off because it's actually talking about this is 0.5 seconds. Interstitial app, full screen ads. Okay, you will never want to show one of these during gameplay. They are good. These are good to show in between your gameplay and your next level game over screen. However, if your game is one where play may only last a few seconds, then you may not want to show an ad every time the game is over. Yes. You may only want to show ad every 5 times, for instance. Okay. That's instant hard set rule. Yes. Interstitial ads play significantly better than banner ads. Yes. Okay. It makes sense to show the ads when you go to your end of game scene, next level scene, etc. You can do this in the scene show function once the scene is on screen. Let's see. So when it did, then you do a delay. So over here, this is a banner. And then, but the code here is essentially, well, 100% identical. But the only difference is this banner at the bottom and this call. And but the rest is the same, also call 10 times. Okay, so the user has to take an action to close the interstitial ad to get back to the app. So you don't need to do anything to hide the ad. Okay. Yeah, it will be auto hide by the plugin. You can implement similar tests to verify the ad is loaded before calling the show function. You can implement similar tests to to verify the ad is loaded before calling the show function. Well, essentially what is, right? And yeah, one thing to notice, there's a not keyword over here. And then also I didn't mention, here you can use parentheses to for the if statement, and also you can skip it. It's optional in Lua, so it seems. So video ads are like interstitial ad that they are full screen and fully interrupt user experience. You should consider showing these in the same place you should show the interstitial ad. In fact, many ad plugins interstitial ads may be video ads. They would follow the same usage rules for showing ad and as interstitial types. Rewarded video ads are a special type of video ads where the user can earn some in-game reward for viewing this type of ads. Instead of ads that interrupt game from like interstitial apps, these apps are generally tied to a button in your UI. Maybe your button show an icon for a video and a number of coins. When the user interact with the internet, watch it to completion, then they receive the reward. Okay, important. In almost every ad provider that support rewarded ad will handle this part differently. Okay, in some cases you may just get an event saying the reward is completed and it's up to your app to grant the reward. Another provider may let you set up multiple reward video placement that have different values. That is watch video placement A and get 50 coins, watch video placement B and get 10 cents, and so on. So it kind of delegate that logic to the app provider. So on. Other providers may require you to have a web server set up where you have a web script that the app provider calls, or is a callback, HTTP callback style thing, to call the reward. Can call to record the reward, and then when you get an event saying the reward video is completed, you can check with your server to get the amount and type of reward. This all should be documented on app provider website, right? So it depends on the application. You might have a web server that handles the web, right? It handles the consolidate the game logic, right? So in AppMob's sense, in AppMob's case, there are no server requirements, but you will get an event reward that contain information about the reward. You will get a number, get a member in the event table called event data, okay? That contain a JSON string that can be converted to Lua table for your use. Consider this change. So forget, okay, in the init we call this, and with that ID, and then this has a reward type, but same failover code. Reward type is you load the next reward video, and then here you get the reward amount and the reward item, and maybe this is something that you set somewhere else. Let's see. Going to how to give this reward to your user if you want scope of this video. So meaning you need to go to the AppMob to figure out how that works. To show the reward video, create a button in your user interface in whatever buttons method you like. Widget new buttons, image with touch or tap, listener, etc. in the function that handles the button interaction, and in the function that handles in the intersection called the show button. So show and then pass in reward video, and my guess is different for different ad providers again. Okay, so you should consider also testing to see the ad is available before presenting the UI button to the user. So meaning display the button only when it is loaded. To learn more about reward ads and implementation strategy, view this app article. All right. So let's continue. So debugging ads. Because ad plugin only work on Android and iOS device, you can only test them on real device. Okay, I see. Corona Live Build can help with the building and testing phase, but unless you are on a Mac and still have the Corona Simulator console log reading your device console log, you can't get information from the device to see what's going on. So on the Mac, you can do that. You can just have Corona install the app to your device. Yeah, so the question is, we don't know if that feature is still available because it's changed to Solar2D. So if you're on a map or on a Mac, you can just have Solar2D install the app to your device. That is tilted via USB, as long as you don't close the build complete dialog box. Okay. Message, yeah, let's just quickly read through this. Messages from your device and app will show in the console log. If you close the dialog or you don't have a Mac, then you have to use other tools to watch device console log. For iOS, you can use Xcode's device and simulator window. For Android, you can use a command line tool called ADB for Android debug bridge. How to install ADB beyond scope? Okay, and assuming you can now see the device console log, what you're looking for. All ad plugin provider return information in each event they generate. Information like phase of event, if there's error or not, and text phase, and so on. Easy way to learn what's going on with your app is read this information. This is done simply by printing out the content of the event table. This one. I see. So this includes the JSON library. You can of course move that line required to the top, or if you're already including it, you can skip it here. The magic happened on the second line. Pretty fine, nothing special. So this what will convert to a JSON string, then you can print the JSON string in very readable format. This is not really prettified in my standard when we talk about in JavaScript, right? Where's the indentation and all that, all that stuff, right? This is just really JSON encode. That's okay. So you can see what event phase is. Fail. Do you get a load event? Do you get a reward event? Or because this is over here at the top level. You can also get a an event response. Maybe it's something else. Actually, let me quickly take a look. Right, you will have the event provider, event phase, and response load fail. Okay, so the detail of the error kind of thing. Does it tell you where there are no ads available? Does it tell you that you have a configuration problem and so on? Oh, well, yeah, so just need to figure it out along the way. All right, so that's finish up all the basics. Is not too bad, right? Well, so let's call this end of this stream, and on the next one, should I continue to go through these allowing jumps, game v6, large block of text? Actually, on the next one, actually, let's try out start writing something. Yeah. So anyway, so that's the end of this video, and Hope you like it, and hope you will look forward to the next one. All right. See ya.